This is the United Uprising channel. Welcome to today's show. I'm recording this right now as two very important things are trending on Twitter, which means people are talking about it. Now, sometimes organically things can trend and then get cut off, and then sometimes we know they plant things to trend so that you research it and find out and get deceived by what they want you to be deceived by. But two of the things trending right now are Nephilim and Project Bluebeam. That's right. Nephilim and Project Bluebeam are trending right now, and that is because supposedly a Miami mall, a creature was spotted. A video has gone viral, which I'm about to show you, where people believe there is a creature spotted. Now, what's very interesting about this, if you look at the actual footage, which I'll show you, is the amount of police on the scene for what was supposedly some activity at a mall. You know, lighting fireworks, they were claiming, fighting at a mall, things that you wouldn't see get this many police officers there. Now, there's no actual real news being reported on this incident, but apparently people online are talking about potential Nephilim being involved. Now, do I believe that's true or not true? I have no idea. I don't have any footage to actually show you that I actually took with my own camera or saw with my own eyes. But we could look at this and say it's a positive thing if people are talking about Project Bluebeam and talking about Nephilim because they could become educated on actual truth. So this is the footage of how many police actually showed up there, which is very suspicious, especially at a time period where our government is openly allowing crime to run amok. They would not send 60 police cars, et cetera, helicopters if there was just some type of robbery going on at a mall. We know that they don't even send police if there's any type of crime being committed at a mall. So maybe they were trying to cover something up. Now, it might be a bit of a stretch to say there was actually Nephilim at a mall. Obviously, a lot of people have picked up that story and are cracking jokes sarcastically about it. They're like, Nephilim are at a mall. But what's important to note is just the mention of Nephilim. So let's first look. Here's some of the footage where they're even trying to depict this object that they think is actually a Nephilim, a tall, giant, 8 to 10 foot figure that's walking as the police surround it.
Esta es una llamada a todas las unidades de la ciudad de Miami. Esto es en Bayside ahora. ¿Qué hora es? ¿Qué hora es? 9:35 de la noche de hoy, primero.
So those are some of the scenes that came out of this Miami mall creature video. And again, having that trend after that story of having Nephilim and Project Bluebeam, of course, is an opportunity for people to become aware of this. Again, I'm not saying that it's necessarily Nephilim or it isn't Nephilim. I have no idea. But I obviously see with it trending that people are making light of something that's actually very serious, which, of course, most Christians don't even know about the Nephilim. They don't know about the book of Enoch. They don't know that Nephilim were the giants mentioned in the Bible, right? They were noted as mighty and strong. It's you can find them in the book of Genesis and Numbers, where they describe these giants, and of course in the first book of Enoch. So a lot of people just don't necessarily even have an understanding of it. And of course Nephilim, and with the flood, and what was part of the purpose of the flood was to rid the earth of these fallen ones. So now what we're seeing is the media trying to kind of cover up what this has become viral. And they're actually talking about this Bayside marketplace in downtown Miami where they're showing people outside attacking a civilian. And it's kind of like deflecting off of what a lot of people are talking about actually occurred there. People who were at the mall said they actually saw Nephilim at the mall. So in today's society, with the way people are programmed, they're obviously going to laugh it off. But let me read the story because Newsweek is even covering this. An incident at a Miami shopping mall, which resulted in the arrest of 4 teenagers earlier this week, has sparked the spread of a bizarre theory on social media which suggests the alleged presence of aliens at the Florida establishment. More than 60 police cars swarmed the Bayside Marketplace in downtown Miami on Monday night to shut down a fight involving a group of teenagers who were also throwing fireworks at each other in the open air shopping mall. 4 teenagers were arrested in connection to the incident as reported by the local WPLG TV. According to the suspect, arrest reports mentioned by the television station the juveniles were causing a riot inside the mall and causing panic. I mean, that's an awful lot of cop cars to show up for something like that, especially when we see footage from other states. Now, again, we know this is all by design, that the police are laying down because they're taking their orders to not go and arrest these people who are, raiding Nordstrom's. All the footage I've shown you, you've seen yourself, from California, Philadelphia, all these cities where crime is just being allowed freely and openly. For 60 police officers to show up, it makes you think they're probably covering something else up. But the flip side of it is the whole notion of a Nephilim being at a shopping mall and everybody kind of taking this like as a laughing matter and saying that we're all tinfoil hat wearers, and then trending it with Project Bluebeam. So they say dozens of officers were called around 8:30 p.m. to this two-story mall at 401 Biscayne Boulevard after several people called 911 to report what they thought were gunshots, but instead loud fireworks. So the whole story is suspicious, right? They were supposedly lighting off fireworks and 60 police officers came. So they're saying that they thought they heard gunshots, but it was really fireworks. Were there really gunshots? We don't actually know. And they go on to say some of the footage analyzed at the scene outside the Miami Mall on Monday have developed the theory that the alien creature was the real cause of the disturbance. One account on X, formerly known as Twitter, which promotes Red Pill Cinema, goes on to say the footage showed 10-foot alien creatures which were fired at inside of the mall. The post reached over 100,000 views on social media. Another post on X claimed authorities weren't telling people the truth about why Miami had possibly the biggest police response they've seen ever in their lives, which was a pretty big police response. I mean, I covered some of the fake false flag events down there, at schools and nightclubs over the years, and there weren't that many police officers there. So what that tells you is it's likely some type of a cover-up, but, you could take it the way you want to take it. It goes on to say, I zoomed in on one of the TikTok videos, the Miami Mall creature, so you could see the gray creature walking in between these police cars and the building. The same user claimed that eyewitnesses said the creature was bending in the crowd, even though it was very tall, and that it's gray-silver in color. The Miami police reported the incident. Does not mention the presence of an unidentified creature corresponding to the claims made online. Well, of course, what do you think the police are going to report if there's Nephilim? I mean, what do you expect, right? Give you a break. The theory hasn't met universal backing on social media, where some have pointed out that they couldn't see any alleged creature, and others said what on the low-quality footage looked like a suspicious creature was possibly 3 officers walking side by side. That could very well be true. So this is why supposedly this story has gone viral, where people are talking about it. So that has led to these terms trending on Twitter. So for those of you that don't know, or should I say X, for those of you that don't know, because people out there have been programmed, I'm about to show you some clips here that help you wake your mind up about aliens. Okay, Aleister Crowley had written about demons and how demons were one day going to be renamed to something else, and that new name is aliens. The government has been planning a fake alien invasion for quite some time. This goes back to pre-World War II, where they needed to come up with something so that they could bring in a new world order, some type of outside threat. We've heard Reagan talk about it. We've heard many politicians talk about it. And I put together a clip here of some people in the past talking about, even at Watergate, how they found documents talking about fake rapture type events, having God projected at sea so people fell for deceptions. There's a lot of things tied in with Project Bluebeam, but of course, aliens in general are make-believe. Demons and Nephilim are actually real and legit. A lot of people, obviously, if you read into this stuff and you research Nephilim, believe that the Nephilim are actually being hidden in different locations around the earth. That's why they, have areas protected. Some believe in the Middle East, part of some of the wars that have gone over there to hide actual truth from people. Others believe in Antarctica. I can only tell you what some of the theories are. I can't tell you things. I only tell you what's 100% proof when I show you these signs and symbols, because you can't argue what they're actually doing, right? I can't go to these places and see these actual things. But do I believe Nephilim are real? Of course I do. Do I believe the fallen ones are real? Of course I do. I believe in the Bible literally. Okay, I said it a million times. So to believe in the Bible literally, you'd have to believe this. The Bible makes no mention of aliens. The Bible makes no mention of UFOs flying in outer space. Now, the government has the technology to fake these things. And the clips I'm about to show you here, including Bill Cooper, who was taken out at some point in time after obviously letting us all know ahead of time about the events that happened on the 11th day of September. He conveniently was taken out a few days later, and Alex Jones was slid in his place to be the new face of, conspiracy. And that's really when COINTELPRO hit the conspiracy movement, even though COINTELPRO has origins going back to the Black Panther Party, et cetera. I've talked about that government infiltration of movements. There was a rise in a conspiracy movement in the 90s, and Bill Cooper was one of the faces of the front of it. It was way more underground. The internet wasn't as big as it is now, where they have thousands of YouTubers and everything else. Well, Cooper was taken out. He knew too much information. He told too much information. He had ties to the intel agencies as he was a former government employee back in the 70s and 80s, I believe. So he was taken out. Alex Jones was slid in. Long story short, here's some clips talking about Project Bluebeam, the faking of an alien invasion, talked about by multiple people out there.
If enough people believe that something is real, then it is real in its effects.
In terms of social reality.
In terms of the social reality, in terms of what people act according to their beliefs.
Yeah.
And that opens a question of, really at two levels, perhaps something that we are creating ourselves, perhaps a series of images that we are projecting. I think Carl Jung came very close to expressing that idea in one of his books. Or could it be manipulated purposely by people who have the technology to simulate UFO sightings? And people say, well, of course not. Who would do a thing like that? Well, I would remind you that during the Watergate investigation, it was discovered that there was a plan originated in the White House to surface a submarine off the coast of Cuba and paint the second coming of Christ over the island of Cuba using holograms. Which is well within our technology today. The idea was that since there is a large Catholic population in Cuba, they would be so upset by this vision that this would saturate the communication channels, the telephone system in Cuba, long enough for an invasion to take place.
How interesting. I'd never heard of that.
Well, I think that's a classic in psychological warfare, but that kind of manipulation is well understood. And I have personally investigated several apparently genuine UFO cases where there was, in fact, a manipulation. My conclusion, the conclusion of scientists working with me, was that there was, in fact, a manipulation taking place and that it was not a hoax on the part of the witnesses, but a hoax on the part of somebody much better organized.
What do you think about aliens?
I don't think there are any. At one time, I thought that there were, simply based upon documents that I'd seen while I was attached to the intelligence briefing team, the commander-in-chief of the Pacific Fleet. At that time, and even for many years afterwards, I did not believe that the government would use me in that way. I had devoted my whole life to government service. I had been in the Air Force. I was in the Navy. I was a river patrol boat captain in Vietnam. I had proved myself. I had combat ribbons with the V for Valor. There was no doubt of my loyalty to my country. And maybe that's why it was so easy to use me, because I wouldn't doubt that what I saw was real. But over the years, I've done a lot of research. And what I've discovered is there's no proof existing anywhere that extraterrestrials are real, or that have ever visited this planet, or that they exist anywhere in the universe. There is not one shred of evidence anywhere. There is lots of evidence, tons of it in fact, that there are a group of people collectively known as the Illuminati who want us to believe in some extraterrestrial threat from space so that they can cause a world government, bringing together of all the people to resist that external threat. And the first time that I saw any reference to that, I was reading some papers from the Carnegie Endowment Fund, and there was a record of a speech. It was a dinner for Viscount Ishii of the Japanese delegation, the Japanese imperial delegation, in 1917. And John Dewey was one of the speakers. And the first sentence out of his mouth, as I was reading this, I almost fell out of my chair, because this was in 1917. And he said, the best way to cause all the people of the world to come together in one world government and end war forever would be if we were attacked by some other species from some other planet. And boy, that just clicked with me, and I knew that this is just another scam. This is the age of deception. There's no doubt about it. And then 8 times during Reagan's administration, he inserted almost the exact same phrase into 8 of his speeches. And it's a scam. That's what I can tell you. What they call UFOs, these craft that fly around the sky, are real. But they're not piloted by some little green guy from some other planet. They're owned and operated by the United States of America for one, the Soviet Union for another, probably Great Britain, Canada. I think the The first really operable ones were probably manufactured in Western Canada, in the wilderness, in a place especially built to create those machines, like we created the Manhattan Project, and the same kind of secrecy surrounded it. So the technology is real. It's been kept secret, and it's been used to promote this concept that there's an alien threat to this earth. The cattle mutilations I've discovered in my research are nothing more than what's left after the government does its secret tests on the low-level radiation leakage from its atomic weapons assembly plants and atomic power plants. It's a low-level radiation monitoring project. And if you look at what's missing in the cattle, you'll see that it's just as clear as day. They take the lips, they take the tongue, they take a 6-inch patch of skin, they core out the rectum, the colon area, where those kinds of things would collect after they pass through the digestive system. On female cows, they take the udder to check for low-level radiation in the milk. This is being passed to the calves. And these are all grazing animals that graze on the grass where the radiation falls when it falls from the air. And it's just an incredible deception. And I'm just amazed that people have fallen for it in the manner that they have in the absence of any proof whatsoever. I mean, they cite hearsay as proof.
Well, what about all of the alien abductions?
They're not abductions. They're the results of a tremendously successful and very sophisticated mind control operation, all of which has been in development. Well, they started working on those kinds of things since before World War II. But they have perfected them. On my website, I have a patent of a machine that can read your brainwaves, can recombine them in a computer and send them back to you and make you think things happened that never happened. I mean, you can't get a patent for something like that unless it really works. You have to prove it to the patent office. It works. A patent was issued. And this is just one of the things that snuck by them that hasn't, because when people invent things like this, they're sucked up by the government immediately, and then they're put behind the veil of national security and classified, and then nobody knows about them. But every once in a while, something sneaks by them. And when you do these searches in the patent office, in the trademark office, and in the copyright office, you come up with some real gems once in a while, and that was one. Also, the congressional investigations into the intelligence community has revealed the existence of these programs. I mean, there's no secret about it. It's documented. Project Artichoke, Project MK Ultra, MK Naomi. I could go on and on and on all day long. And, if you had the time in your movie, we could lay out all the documentation, which is official government documentation, and prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that it's true. But that's what it is. It's not extraterrestrials coming down. The human body cannot pass through walls and roofs or through windows that are closed. This is all the product of the imagination and people's willingness to believe something because they want it to be true. I don't know why they would want it to be true. You see, because if it were true, these are not friendly aliens. They're doing some terrible things to people. If I were to kidnap somebody, pass them up through the roof, and take them somewhere, and perform operations on them, and take samples of semen and ova from their, reproductive organs, and plant thoughts in their mind, and all this kind of stuff, and then bring them back, guess where I'd be right now? In prison. That's kidnapping. It's criminal. It's a terrible thing. So there's a morbid sense about all this too, as if people want to be hurt for some reason. I don't understand that. But that certainly is something that somebody needs to look at. Why do people feel that this needs to be real? What in them says, I want to be abducted and abused and kidnapped and raped and all of this stuff against my will? Because they seem to take some kind of satisfaction that this is happening. And Nobody's talking about the fact that this is a terrible thing to happen. If I were to do that to you, you wouldn't be too happy, would you? But somehow it's okay if an alien does it? I don't think so. It's all bullshit. It's a lie.
The strategy that Werner von Braun taught me was that first the Russians are going to be considered to be the enemy. In fact, when I met him in '74, they were the enemy, the identified enemy. We were told that they had killer satellites. We were told that they were coming to get us and control us, the dirty commies, that whole story. First, the Russians were the enemy against whom we're going to build space-based weapons. Then terrorists would be identified, and that was soon to follow. We heard a lot about terrorism. Then we were going to identify third world country crazies. We now call them nations of concern. But he said that would be the third enemy against whom we would be needing to build space-based weapons. And the next enemy was asteroids. Now, at this point, he kind of chuckled the first time he said it. Asteroids, against asteroids, we're going to build space-based weapons. So it was funny then. And the funniest one of all was against what he called aliens, extraterrestrials. That would be the final card. And over and over and over during the 4 years that I knew him and was giving his speeches for him, he would bring up that last card. And remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We're going to have to build space-based weapons against aliens. And all of it, he said, is a lie. He didn't mention a timeline, but he said that it was going to be speeding up faster than anybody could possibly imagine. That the effort to put weapons in space was not only based on a lie, but would accelerate past the point of people even understanding it until it was already up there and too late.
So Project Bluebeam is trending. Those are just some clips of Project Bluebeam. And obviously how this is all kind of a war on your mind. Talking about this decades ago, talking about, the patents that you hear about, certain things that they could do with your mind. I mean, these are all things, if you look into DARPA, et cetera, they've made known now. Those video clips are from, the 80s and 90s. Okay? Some believe, as you heard, the final card is the alien card, the fake alien invasion. So these are things we all need to be aware of. So while this is trending, I thought I'd take the opportunity to make mention of these things. Because a lot of people are going to see that story. They're going to look at the story. The government doesn't really care if you're talking about, what's going on there. I'm surprised they didn't say aliens. I'm surprised they're letting Nephilim trend because most people don't even know what Nephilim are. But, it's a type of story that'll make people laugh. They're like, oh, were the aliens, the fallen angels, what stores were they shopping at the mall? Did they go get a bagel? You know what I mean? Did they go to McDonald's and get some human flesh? I mean, those are the types of things people are talking about. So they don't really care that it's trending, obviously. But if, people start actually waking up and realizing this stuff about the alien deception, what Project Bluebeam is, which is great that and Nephilim are trending, then we would be going in a better direction here with actual truth and evidence being put out there, because there's tons of evidence. There's tons of evidence with Project Bluebeam. It's government documented, okay? All this type of technology we know they have, and it's just the question of why. It's always the question of why. Why would anyone do that? Control, power. That's why. We look at shows and movies about the Roman Empire, et cetera, and these people were like, oh man, they were sick back then. What do you think? Those types of people don't exist now? Maybe not in your mind, because you're living in a fake, false reality that they've created around you. But the sickest, most twisted people you could possibly imagine now all have power. They all have government power. They all have political is government power. But they all have social status power. They're celebrities, etc. And nobody would believe that they'd all be in on it, because they go, how are they all in on it? They're only famous because they are in on it. That's the point. You don't become famous the way they tell you, where you could work really hard. They do that to keep you as a mouse at a wheel, to chase after something you can't achieve. It destroys you physically, it destroys you emotionally, it destroys you mentally, right? They're all in these positions to control your perception of reality. And what they're trying to do is strip us of our rights, enslave us, and take total control over us. And that's exactly what we're headed towards. So, Nephilim trending, Project Bluebeam trending. I thought I'd cover it. Couldn't believe it when I saw it at first. I'm like, are you kidding me that these things are actually trending? But maybe there was a Nephilim at the mall. I mean, if I was going to guess, I'd guess he was going to a bagel shop. That's just me. Why? Well, I think you could all figure that out. But, hey, it's out there. Why not talk about it? I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless all of you, as always, and your families.